Welcome to another session of Ask a Pastor. I hope you're enjoying our times of these answers. You certainly have given us some good questions, and I so appreciate the two Pastor Daves of what they've done with this, but occasionally I'll take a turn in answering some of the questions that come by. We've actually got these scheduled out through May, and so it may just be patient. We'll get to yours, and if we don't get to yours directly on here, we will get to them by answering you personally. The question that we have today is, I'm having a hard time reconciling or understanding the deep rift that has developed among Christians regarding the presidential election. Regardless of political affiliation, God is in control and has chosen who he wants in the White House. That is what I was brought up to believe from reading the Bible and from sermons. Yes, unfortunately, there has tended to be a big divide, even within the Christian community, over politics. Some Christians put issues like abortion and gay marriage on the top of their agenda, while others look at the immigration crisis or racial strife at the top of their priority list. Issues like this often pull us apart, and we tend to get angry and argumentative. Too often, we put our political differences above the biblical requirement that we're to love one another. You are correct that God is the one who sets up and removes leaders, and he does it to accomplish his plan. This is true with the election of every leader. In Daniel chapter 2, verse 21, Daniel was talking to Nebuchadnezzar. Now remember, Nebuchadnezzar was the Babylonian ruler, and he was an absolute monarch with unbridled power. Daniel said, "It is he, God, who changes the times and the periods. He removes and appoints kings." In Isaiah 40, we're reminded that whatever may be happening here on the earth, that God is still on his throne ruling above the circle of the earth. Again, you are correct that God has the ability to change any election he wants to serve his purposes. And every leader we get is the leader God intends us to have at that time. Now, we still need to vote. We still need to be informed of the issues that are going on around us, but ultimately, it is God who puts leaders in place. Politics carry with them a set of values. Now, no political party fits anyone's value system, but the political party we vote for is normally the party we feel reflects our values. Now, when there's a clash of values between two people, that's where conflict erupts. By our very nature, when we hear a value that does not match our value, we think the other person must be wrong. The last election brought to the surface the different values that Christians have. Can two believing Christians have different values? The answer, of course, is yes. Not every position we may take on an issue is a clear reflection of a biblical belief. The unfortunate thing is that in all of this discussion that we have been having, we've forgotten about grace and love and have placed a higher value on being right and on seeing or showing others as being wrong. I would hope that two Christians could have a calm, meaningful discussion about any political issue and share their feelings about that particular political issue, whether it be a crisis on the border, the $15 minimum wage, whatever it may be, that we could have the discussion without becoming unhinged. I also believe people are angry. They're angry about COVID. They're angry about the moral climate in our country. They're angry about the kind of rhetoric that is being used and of the sharp divisions that we see in our country. To the extent that these things make us feel out of control, we need to remember that God is still in control. When it comes to our anger, the scriptures tell us to not let the sun go down on our anger, and that man's anger does not accomplish the righteousness of God. I believe that Christians can and should be involved in the political process. Our country needs people who trust God for wisdom in order to make good decisions. But even though we may be passionate about politics, we can't let our politics get in the way of our purpose. God has called Christians to love people. We're to love other Christians. And we're to show others the love of Jesus. And that includes loving even our enemies, or in this case, those who may disagree with our political beliefs. Let me add that social media is not helping with the divisions that we see in our country. Instead of having an honest mutual conversation, social media allows people to state their unfiltered positions without any feedback or opposing view. I would remind you that we're probably not going to change anyone's political views because of Facebook. Our post is not going to make somebody change over to our side. In fact, just the opposite often happens, and we alienate people who do not know Christ by putting out an unfiltered political post. In Colossians 3, Paul writes, "Put on your new nature, and be renewed as you learn to know your Creator and become like Him." In this new life, it doesn't matter if you're Jew or Gentile, circumcised or uncircumcised, barbaric, uncivilized, slave or free. Christ is all that matters, and He lives in all of us. There were certainly a lot of natural differences between Jews and Gentiles, between the barbarians and the civilized Greeks, and between the slaves and the free men. Paul says none of that matters. But what matters is Christ. And we who know Christ have Him in common. We may have some different views on the issues that affect society. We may side with different political parties from each other. But what matters is that we know Christ and that we follow Him together.